Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors with Lance and Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors, the podcast where we discuss and review underseen horror movies, specifically those with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm your co-host Erica, joined as always by co-host Lance.
Hey, everybody.
So this episode, we are doing something different, and instead of talking about one movie in depth, we are going to be talking briefly about 60 plus movies. So last month we did a movie challenge called Horror Gives Back, and each day had a different category for a horror movie to watch. Then we donated per horror movie that we watched to a charity of our choice. Now, both of us watched way more than 31 horror movies each in October, but we're only going to be talking about one movie per category. Though we may mention a few others that came up throughout the month for each of those. So, and we also had some of our friends and followers participate in the challenge and make donations, and we will be sure to shout those people out later in the episode, as well as do our drawing for our winners, as promised. But first, Lance, how many movies did you end up watching, or horror movies did you end up watching in October, and what charity did you donate to?
52. I got 52 horror movies in for the month.
Nice.
I wanted to do a little more, but I couldn't. And I donated $2 per movie that I watched to the Austin Justice Coalition.
Cool. What do they do?
They're a racial justice group that educates and builds like community power for people of color who live in Austin.
Very good cause.
Yes.
So I ended up watching 85 horror movies in October. Yes, listeners, I don't have a life, so thank you very much. I'm probably between 90 and 100 for all movies during the month, but obviously I'm only counting horror for this. So I donated $1 per movie, plus my company does a charity match program. So ended up donating $170 to AGFA, or the American Genre Film Archive, which is based here in Austin, and they collect, preserve, and distribute genre films. And side note, I saw that Cody, Lance's twin brother, he also participated in the challenge, as well as donated some goodies for our giveaway, and he also donated to AGFA, which was really awesome.
Yeah, so AGFA definitely deserves it. Good cause.
Hopefully we can actually see some of the films that they preserve soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So we will shout out some more people that participated and made donations in a bit, but we have a lot of movies to cover, so let us jump right into those. Okay, so 31 categories, 31 days. Our first category is Poe. Lance, what was your pick for Poe?
The Premature Burial from 1962.
So this is funny because like day one, I think you posted this first, and I was like, holy shit, that was my pick for Poe. And then I think you were worried, like, oh my God, are we going to have like matchy
Yeah,
picks?
every day we're going to pick the same movie. So I kind of got into the habit of waiting for you to post, because I would post on Twitter and Erica would post on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, obviously we made our list out beforehand, but I kind of kept an eye out on Erica's, and I was like, okay, cool. But this will speed up the discussion.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty sure, I was like, okay, with Poe, like I can see like an overlap there. But when we start getting into like 70s horror and like some more broad category, I was like, there's no way, because I got some deep cuts on my list. So
Right. Yeah.
So Premature Burial, what did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was it was a perfect film to kick off October for me. It had those awesome foggy night October vibes. And then the lead, this is a Roger Corman movie. So Roger Corman, all his Poe adaptations usually have Vincent Price. And this had Ray Milland in it as the lead. And I thought he was fucking awesome in it. But for some reason, I kept missing Vincent Price. Like, kind of like Jeffrey Combs to Lovecraft films. I always feel like Price should be in all Poe adaptations from that era. But Milland killed it. And you have a young Dick Miller in the cast too, so you can't be upset with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I loved it too. I think I have the exact same note for this. Perfect foggy start to October. Loved it. Watched this one on Prime, so that's available for folks to watch if you missed it in October and still are feeling in a spooky mood. Did you watch any other Poe movies this month that didn't count for other categories?
I didn't. I just watched this one.
Okay. I ended up watching Two Evil Eyes, which I had only seen the first half of it before. So this was like, I guess technically a first time watch, finally finishing it. So
the first half is Argento, right?
First half is Romero.
It is. Okay.
Yeah. And then the second half is The Black Cat, which we talked about. Sorry, shameless plug for our own Black Cat episode. Lance mentioned this in that episode, that the whole Black Cat Demons cinematic universe connection. So it was okay. Not too much of a fan of that. Premature Burial, great pick for Poe though.
Yeah, there's the melody in the Premature Burial. Like, there's the score is by Ronald Stein, who I have to comment on because he does most of like Corman's Poe adaptations and a lot of his other films. But when it starts off with the Gravedigger whistling, and what that is, it's a precursor to actually the score that's used throughout the film, and that just blew me away. This was a first-time watch for me. Most of these movies are first-time watches for me. But yeah, there's like a tomb where Guy, who's Ray Milland's character, you know how he kind of boards himself up because he thinks he's going to be buried alive, so he wants all these escape routes. We recently built a tough shed in our backyard, and I kind of want to trick it out to that. That way I have all these, just live out there, have a bar, and just stocked with food, and
nice.
Just start painting badass pictures of like the devil feeding on human souls, like his character was. But yeah, this movie I can't recommend enough. It was one of my favorites of the month.
So 70s horror, super broad category. I know we're not overlapping here. What did you pick for that one?
I picked Deathline, aka Raw Meat.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the alternate title on that. I'm familiar with Raw Meat. That's got Christopher Lee in it, right?
Yeah. Christopher Lee and Donald Pleasance.
Okay,
are the stars. And I loved it. I had never seen it before. I've had it in my watch list for years. But Pleasance, his character, he's an inspector. And his character's like on par with Peter Sellers as Clouseau in the Pink Panthers movies. He is so hilarious. Just has great chemistry with like everybody in the cast. But it has like some gnarly gore, great practical effects, some really creepy vibes. But it was solid all around. I liked it.
Nice. I ended up watching 5 outside of my actual pick for 70s horror.
Nice.
Some of these are rewatches. Some of these are first-time watches. So rewatch, I did Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Do you like Let's Scare Jessica to Death?
I love it.
Okay.
It's not for everyone. It's very slow. So just putting that out there. But I really enjoy that one a lot. And it'd been a really long time since I watched it. So I'm a huge fan of like the let's drive this woman crazy and see what happens movies. So
Drive a Woman Crazy and then a child being murdered. Those are your two.
Yeah. And
I know Cody loves Let's Scare Jessica to Death. That's one of his favorites too.
Oh, nice. Cody's got good taste.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, ouch.
He does. I'm just jabbing at my twin because he's not here.
Yeah. A couple others for 70s horror. Prophecy, 1979, which I watched that because John Frankenheimer directed it, and I was doing Black Sunday, 1977 for the other podcast, which is directed by John Frankenheimer. So I was like, oh, I should watch some more of his movies. And I ended up watching this. It's you've seen the poster. It's like the mutant bear that looks like it's in an embryo or something like that. Yeah. So I thought I had seen this movie, and then I was watching it and I was like, I don't think I have seen it. And it's got this, I'm not even talking about the movie I picked yet, but I have to bring it up because child murder. There's a scene in it that's very similar to Friday the 13th, where the bear picks up a child that's in a sleeping bag and then just beats it to shit in the sleeping bag.
I have never seen this. I need to see it. Is it a good like bear suit?
No, it's like a mutant bear. So it's like practical effects. It's all like gnarled and shit. So yeah. So Prophecy 1979, The Killer of Dolls, The Horror of Frankenstein, and Race with the Devil, which I would recommend all of those, actually. Nice. So yeah. Okay, so my actual pick for 70s horror, finally getting to it, sorry, was The House on Straw Hill, a.k.a. Exposé. This has Udo Kier and Linda Hayden, who most people know from Blood on Satan's Claw. This movie is not what I expected. It's on YouTube if anyone is curious and wants to watch it. I thought it was just going to be kind of just sort of like secluded, and you're trying to figure out, like, Linda Hayden gets hired as Udo Kier's sort of like secretary and scribe. He's a writer, but she's got this sort of ulterior motive for wanting to be hired there. And we find out later on why she's there. But the whole time she's just kind of trying to sort of seduce him, but not really. And there is a lot of sex and masturbation in this. And I wasn't expecting a sexploitation movie is all. Linda Hayden, I thought, was great in it. Udo Kier is, I mean, you can't go wrong, but it tends to meander a bit. And I think a lot of people would probably get turned off by it just because of like the pacing of it. And it's just kind of, it's a weird one, but I enjoyed it. House on Straw Hill, 1976. And then the next category is Vincent Price. My two that I watched outside of my actual picks, these are both rewatches, were Abominable Dr. Phibes and Mask of Red Death, which are Mask of Red Death should just be like an every Halloween for everyone movie. So my original pick for Vincent Price was Spirits of the Dead, which is a Poe anthology. And each segment is directed by 3 different directors: Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. And the English version is supposed to have Vincent Price as a narrator, but I have a Blu-ray that does not have the English version. And so I did not have a Vincent Price narrator when I watched the movie. So I ended up watching the Oblong. I still watched it, but I ended up watching the Oblong box to count for my Vincent Price one, but that movie is boring. So I'm still going to talk about Spirits of the Dead, even though there is no Vincent Price in the version that I watched.
I haven't seen the Oblong box yet. The Oblong box. It's
the poster is better than the movie.
Yeah, that just to let everybody know, when I talked to Cody about the logo for Unsung Horrors, I did refer to that poster because it is killer and it's so good. Yeah,
and that's pretty much the best part. It's not bad. It's just okay. It's nothing just interesting to talk about. But Spirits of the Dead was really neat, and it's kind of like art house Poe. The Fellini entry was my favorite. It has so much style going on. It's got Terrence Stamp, who I love, and it has its fans out there, like Tim Lucas, who I talked about in our first episode when we were talking about Bloodbath and the trouble with Titian and his whole video essay and his writings about that. He actually wrote a book about this movie advocating for it because so many people were turned off by it. Like, this isn't a true Poe adaptation. And what is this? And it's just some, pretentious art house bullshit. And I can see why some people would think that, but this is like, it's taking to the worlds that I love, which is like weird art house movies, and then Edgar Allan Poe and mashing them together. And the adaptations are so loosely based on Poe. Like, it's barely recognizable. Like, you'd have to tell me this was based on a Poe story. And even then I'd still be like, I don't see it. But so Spirits of the Dead, I think it's AKA Historias Extraordinaris or something like that. But I really liked it and I would recommend it. for my
Nice.
Vincent Price, even though Vincent Price wasn't really in the version I watched.
Vincent Price, like a year or so ago, I watched Vincent Price. It's just him on a stage, and he just narrates entire Poe works. There's like 4 different segments, and there's no like. It's just basically him on a stage, and it is like so captivating to watch. I forgot what it was called. I think it was just called like An Evening of Edgar Allan Poe.
Nice. I could listen to that.
Yeah, it's really good. But that's not what I watched. I watched Scream and Scream Again by Gordon Hessler. Not very good. Very forgettable. This was the first time. What really sold me and what hooked me to actually watch it was it had Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and Vincent Price in the cast. And this was actually the first time all 3 of them were cast in a feature together in 1970. So, but sadly, the 3 of them combined make up like 15 minutes of screen time, and none of them have scenes together except for Lee and Price, the last couple of minutes of the film. But it's just all over the place. There's like 3 different films edited into one. It kind of felt like Bloodbath, like people just got a hold of it and just made this film. But no, it was way more crime, like a crime drama than horror. And I'd skip this one if anybody was thinking of adding it to a October watch list.
Yeah, I remember. I think I watched that last year, and I already forgot about it. And you're talking about it, and I'm like, I still don't remember it. So that's how forgettable it is, folks. I only watched it last year.
I couldn't tell you what it was about, honestly. But then I also got in, to make up for that, I watched William Castle's House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price, mainly because, Price is perfect in it. But I love hearing him say Lance. There's a character named Lance in there. And that just kind of, that just woos me.
Oh, I watched that one too. I think we watched that one on Halloween. Yeah, we watched it on Halloween Day, actually.
That's perfect.
Yeah. What'd you watch for O Canada?
O Canada, my pick was Dead of Night, a.k.a. Death Dream, directed by Bob Clark, who did Black Christmas and A Christmas Story, and Porky's. Don't forget about Porky's.
Don't never forget Porky's, people.
Yeah. But this one was great. I've had this one in my watch list for a while. I think it was on Tubi or Prime, I forgot, but it popped up there. But this one's like about a soldier who's killed in Vietnam, or he's thought to be killed in Vietnam, and he returns home to his parents, who are obviously confused, but at the same time ecstatic to have their son back. And his girlfriend's there too, his old girlfriend, and he's acting very strange. And he's basically a zombie. So he comes back and he's just not himself, and he eats people. But it's super creepy. It's like this heartbreaking horror. And I think the focus is mainly on his parents. It's Lynn Carlin, who plays his mom, and John Marley, who plays his father. And together they are like on another level with grief and happiness and sadness and denial. Really heartbreaking stuff. But I definitely recommend this one. Most people have probably seen it. That was probably last on the list. But this one, I can't wait to watch again because it really sticks with you. It lingers. This one lingered for me for a couple of days because it is like handled so well, kind of like what he does in Black Christmas and stuff with those real haunting scenes, like on the phone and stuff.
Nice.
And then I also included, when I was wrapping up Fantastic Fest, I watched a Canadian horror called Bloodthirsty, which is not very good. But yeah, no, it's a werewolf movie. And I talk about it on I think it's our next episode?
Yeah, on Bloodsucking Pharaohs of Pittsburgh, we're doing a short Fantastic Fest overview of like some of the stuff we watched. So yeah, you can hear how much we disliked a lot of the movies at Fantastic Fest. So yeah.
So check out next episode.
So Canada for me was a movie called American Nightmare, ironically, because it's Canadian. 1983. It is a very snoozy, but also very sleazy Canadian giallo, which it's interesting to see like Canada look like 42nd Street. because I just think of Canada as like beautiful and pristine. And
Right.
if we have Canadian listeners yet, feel free to at me and correct me about that. But we think you're just a lovely, beautiful country.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting, and I liked it. I looked at the director a little bit, and it's funny because the majority of his catalog is Hallmark movies. And then he's got this one movie from 2003 called Ghost Cat, starring Ellen Page. It's just this really weird. It's weird, but he's got this random Canadian slasher from 1983. So I'd recommend it. It's just, you may get tricked into thinking you're watching a movie that's taking place in America, but the minute they start talking, you're like, okay, Canadian accents. There it is. So this was beginning of the month, so I've already forgotten. But
Yeah.
I know I liked it.
Well, you watched a ton of movies, and some of these movies too. Like I can't. I'll probably forget some of the synopsises of.
Yeah,
them.
That's going to be me for the next one, which is Monsters. I watched Werewolf of London, 1935.
Ooh, that's my
Werewolf of London.
Warren Zevon, yeah.
And I have nothing to say about it because I don't remember it at all. I did watch another werewolf movie though called The Werewolf of Woodstock, which it was a TV movie, and Amanda Reyes, who wrote the book Are You Alone in the House, and she has the Made for TV Mayhem podcast. She introduced Bad Ronald when they screened that at a Mystery Terror Tuesday.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I was at that one.
Anyway, so she had been posting on Instagram, and I actually changed. I was going to change my pick after I saw this movie, and then I was like, no, I'll just add it to the like other stuff I watch list. But Werewolf of Woodstock, thank you, Amanda, because this movie is about a grizzled old man who hates hippies, and he turns into a werewolf, but not through the traditional werewolf means. Like he gets turned into a werewolf. I'm not going to spoil it because everyone should watch Werewolf of Woodstock. It's just the werewolf rides a doom buggy at one point, and I'm going to leave it at that because it's just it's pure joy. Those Monsters.
Doesn't Turkey Shoot have a werewolf on a doom buggy too?
Does it?
I feel like it does. Like I because I do follow Amanda, and I think I saw her tweet something like, "What other movie has a werewolf on a doom buggy?" And I immediately thought, "Oh, Turkey Shoot, the Australian." But I don't know if that's accurate, so I didn't reply to her.
Okay, all right.
I just sat on it.
Okay, fair enough. So no to Werewolf in London, yes to Werewolf of Woodstock. What did you watch for Monsters?
I picked a werewolf movie as well called Howl. It's a recent one from 2015. It's an English one. It's very forgettable. I think it was about this young guy who's like on a tram or on a bus that he's forced to work an extra shift, and he's all, been out of shape about it. And then a werewolf comes and pretty much takes out the passengers and stuff. Some cool monster makeup though, but it was very forgettable. I wanted to just kind of turn it off as I was watching it. I wanted to mix in though some recent horrors with some older ones. So I picked a couple of late releases, but I also watched The Ghost of Frankenstein as a monster pick.
There's a curse on our village. The curse of Frankenstein.
Which I loved. It picks up immediately after Son of Frankenstein, which is probably of all the Frankenstein movies from the Universal horror, Bride of Frankenstein is my favorite, but Son of Frankenstein is just right underneath that because it's so good. Basil Rathbone's in it, and in this one, and Bela Lugosi plays Igor. So he's back as Igor in this one. Lon Chaney Jr. plays the monster this time, but Bela Lugosi in the previous installment, Son of Frankenstein, he makes that movie. And when I started it, this particular day and saw him, I immediately just like, okay, this is probably going to be one of my favorite movies of October.
Oh,
And it was so good. But yeah, in this one, no spoilers really, but because this thing's like 80 years old, but
But I haven't seen it. I just got the Universal set, so now I want to watch
Oh,
it. So
nice.
no spoilers.
okay, yeah, this one, I mean, this isn't a spoiler. I mean, he sets up pretty quick, but Bela Lugosi wants his brain because he's kind of a humpback, Igor character. He wants his brain put into the monster so he could have that strong body, but have his intellect, and it's really fun to watch. I totally recommend that one.
Nice. I'm on a break from horror right now because I went a little hard in October. But when I get back to it, I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, that box sets you have is amazing.
Yeah, Prime Day got it for like half price. Not more than that, 70% off, I think. It was...
Yeah, I have the Ultimate Invisible Man collection, and then I have just like the basic Universal Monsters set, but I don't have all those Ultimate collections of everything else.
Yeah.
So good.
Yes. Barbara Crampton. What'd you watch?
Barbara Crampton. I did a double feature this day. My first pick was Stay Out, Stay Alive. This was a 2019 release. It wasn't good.
Okay.
It's basically, it's like a group of friends go hiking and they find a gold mine, like a literal gold mine. Like a girl falls into a hole and they all go down to save her and they see gold. So all the dudes get like real greedy and they're like, let's steal the gold from this park and don't tell anybody and then we'll be rich. So the whole movie is kind of them fighting amongst each other, thinking they should leave the gold and help their friend who's injured, or should they stick around and another night and get more gold? And the gold mine is haunted apparently, so that's where the horror element comes in.
Well, of course, yeah.
But it's real. I mean, the haunted, like the ghosts are essentially just, shadows. There's no ghost. But Barbara Crampton is the best part. She plays the park ranger, but she's only in it, maybe a total of 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's a short runtime. I wouldn't recommend it, but that was my first Barbara Crampton pick. And then I watched Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich, which I had never seen. I've only seen a couple of the Puppet Masters, like the first couple. Mm-hmm. This one I had been wanting to see, mainly because Fabio Frizzi does the score.
Right.
But I fucking loved it. It was just so offensive. It was just gore, practical effects, just pretty much every scene. Again, the humor is very offensive. But, if that's not your bag, it does have Udo Kier in it. Mm-hmm. Everybody should, he should be on everybody's watch list. Watch every movie with that man.
Yes.
And then Barbara Crampton plays like this trigger-happy tour guide cop, Dorsky, and she's really funny in it. But the score is kick-ass. Great pacing, just kind of stupid, fun entertainment that kind of kept me engaged the entire runtime.
Mm-hmm. So mine was a little bit of a weird pick. I picked The Evil Clergyman, which is technically part of an anthology called Pulse Pounders that Charles Band directed back in 1987, 1988. And so part of the anthology was apparently, or the whole thing was lost. And then it was rediscovered years later. And then each of these segments from it were premiered at some like horror festivals and then released on like Full Moon's channel or something like that. So Evil Clergyman was one of them. It's worth it if you're a Barbara Crampton completist, but it's not really that great. I didn't watch the other two segments of it because Evil Clergyman was available on Tubi, and I think only one of the other segments from that anthology has been released, and the other one isn't out there yet. If you're curious about The Evil Clergyman, I think I posted about it, and someone either on Instagram or I wouldn't know because I posted all my pics on Instagram. Someone on Instagram was like, "Oh my God, where'd you watch this?" And I was like, "Someone's heard of this? I've never heard of this." So,
I've watched it before. I've seen just that segment of it.
Yeah,
I definitely wanted to see more Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs too. I love him in any type of Lovecraft adaptation.
But hey, David,
it's on YouTube, I think, right?
Well, I watched this on Tubi, but maybe it's on YouTube as well, in case it disappears from Tubi. So if people are curious, it's there. But I'm still counting it for a movie. So
for sure.
Yeah. Horror comedy. Another movie I watched in the category was the movie that we're covering in our episode next week. So blood fucking, fucking blood sucking. No, blood sucking pharaohs in Pittsburgh. So next, God, don't get me. Everyone can listen next week and hear my thoughts about that movie. My actual pick for horror comedy was Fearless Vampire Killers, directed by Roman Polanski, 1967. This is on Prime. I don't know if it's still for free. It might be for rent now. I liked it. It's kind of a little bit of a spoof on like Hammer movie, like Vampire Hunter Hammer movies, with Roman Polanski's character being kind of the bumbling sidekick, and he's cute, but and especially like him and Sharon Tate, it's kind of sad to watch that, but it's just hard because horror comedy, and I know I made the list of the categories and I put horror comedy on the list, but it's just my least favorite subgenre, and it's hard for me to get into it, and I
mean, it's hard to get horror comedy right, but when it lands, it's like, watch out. There's a few movies that can do that.
Yeah, I would still recommend it though. I think it's cute, but I might just not have been in the right mood for it that day.
Right.
But yeah, it's well made and it's fun, but I just was not into it maybe it was the mood I was in. I don't know. What did you watch?
It was the 7th. Maybe there was something going on October 7th.
Maybe, who knows? Yeah.
Let's see. I added a bunch to my list because I watched some of these throughout October.
Mm-hmm.
My pick was Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. Again, this one's on that Ultimate Edition, whatever, the collection of Invisible Man that I have. But it was okay. I'm not a huge Abbott and Costello. I don't like crack up when I watch them.
Right.
They're not that funny to me, but I always find them humorous. Usually the characters around them and like people reacting to how stupid they are. I find that really funny. But this one was like they both graduate like this detective academy and they take on a case about a middleweight boxer accused of killing his old manager. And the boxer takes an invisible formula to get to stay away from the cops, all the while trying to figure out who actually killed his manager. And then, Lou and Bud help him along the way. So it wasn't really horror at all. The only horror element was, that it's an Invisible Man and it's universal horror. But if you're into like Invisible Man horror, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
It's just kind of bad.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily into the Abbott and Costello ones either, but I also don't think I've seen more than one. So
yeah, I mean, I guess same for me. I've seen Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Yeah,
which I think is much funnier than this one, but even then, it doesn't like blow me away.
Sure.
I also rewatched Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which is just campy goodness. I hadn't seen that in I don't even know how long, so I wanted to put that one on. And then this one I know you will appreciate, Erica. Hubie Halloween.
Oh, God, fuck that.
We all know, everybody listening that knows Erica knows her love for Adam Sandler can get annoying. Like, she loves this guy.
God, yeah.
It was stupid fun. I mean, it was probably, I think I rated it probably my least amount of stars out of all the horror comedies I watched, but it was stupid fun. There was this kid who dressed up as Freddie Mercury, and he was better than Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody, because I can't stand that movie. But
okay.
And then I rewatched The Addams Family, which was another one I hadn't watched in a long time.
Fuck Adam Sandler. I still have not seen Uncut Gems because I just don't want to look at his dumb face. It's
good.
I don't care.
Uncut Gems is good.
I don't care. Don't want to see it.
So is Billy Madison.
What? All right.
So is Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison is funny because Bradley Whitford is like so good in it. I'll shut up now.
Thank you.
Who wants to start an Adam Sandler podcast?
There is one out there.
Okay.
And they're based in Austin too.
What?
Yeah.
Hey guys, whoever's out there, invite me on. Let's talk about Halloween.
God damn it. we talk about horror, please? God,
Yes.
fucking Adam Sandler. All right. What'd you do for Bava?
I went Mario Bava
Okay.
and watched Shock 1977,
Okay.
aka Beyond the Door 2, which, we've talked about the awesome Italian, sequel movies out there with demons and all that good stuff. I really loved it. The music right away kind of drew me in as soon as the credits start. First off, the opening credits have like the coolest font I've ever seen in my life. I think it probably rivals when we watched Born of Fire.
Oh, yeah.
It might be the same font. I need to look into that. But it's just, this font kind of blew me away. And then it had this bass heavy, just opening number, kind of like zombie, kind of proggy stuff. Really good stuff. And it stars Daria Nicolodi, who she's young in it, she's 77, and she's just a rock star in this, losing her mind, pretty much losing her mind, possessed by her son, Marco, who is just this annoying, horribly dubbed Italian child actor who's like kind of seems to be pulling the strings, making her go crazy. But yeah, it's worth it. I mean, it's worth the time. It's Bava and it's Nicolodi just kind of in a lead role, just killing it.
Okay. I might need to revisit it because I saw it for the first time a couple years ago and it did not land with me. And I think a lot of that had to do with the kid.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And if you're spoiler, but if you're waiting for him to, which I kind of was, I was waiting for him to get just his head chopped off or something. Yep. It doesn't happen. So I could see why you didn't like it. It is definitely a slow burn.
Yeah. I mean, I can do the slow burns, but like, I was waiting for the kid to die because he is so fucking annoying. And
the dubbing's the worst.
The dubbing is fucking awful.
Mommy. Push me on the swing. It's like,
yeah, it's worse than like all the Bobs and all the other Italian. Anyway.
Oh, it's so good. Bob.
Okay, so I did both Mario and Lamberto Bava, and the son came out on top in this one. So for Mario, I did $5 for an August Moon, and I honestly, I faded in and out of paying attention despite Edwidge Fenech being in this, who's beautiful, and
yes. But
I just I could not get into it. Macabre, though, takes place in New Orleans. It's about a woman who has lost her husband, and I am not going to spoil it, even though if you watch it, eventually you will figure it out before the big reveal. But I will say that it has child murder and necrophilia, and those are two of my favorite things in the world. So, yeah, it's a winner in my book. $5 for an August Moon was streaming on Canopy, and Macabre I watched on a Blue Underground Blu-ray or DVD, not Blu-ray. But I also watched two other Bava movies this month, Black Sunday, which is an annual Halloween watch, and Kill Baby Kill, which I had not seen in years. It was really, really good.
Yeah, I've had Macabre in my watch list for a long time. I need to watch it.
Child murder. And necrophilia. So good.
I hope it's not this. Is it the child? That's
no.
killed?
Oh my God, that would be so good though.
I know,
right? Fuck. Damn it. Now I might need to rescore that one because they didn't combine the two. Anyway. All right. Moving on. LGBTQ. My pick was Blood and Roses, directed by Roger Vadim, 1960.
Blood and Roses, the ultimate in adult and unadulterated horror. Bursting onto the screen in the most lavishly beautiful, sensationally shocking picture of modern times. Blood and Roses, starring two alluring continental beauties, introduced by Roger Vadim, the stormy genius who gave you Brigitte Bardot. Annette Vadim, filling the screen with the all-pervading scent of chilling fear.
This is another of the many, many takes on the Carmilla short story. It is not a typical lesbian vampire flick, but it is well worth a watch. It's not easy to find. I had to download it by legal adjacent means. That's all I'll say. but it's very, very dreamy. There's very blurred lines between what's real, who's infatuated with who. It's one of those movies where I could see, like, if you are, if you're just sort of mainstream horror person, you're not going to like something like this. It's got that art house element to it. There's so many gorgeous shots in it. It's a feast for the eyes is really what it is. It's very loose with story. It's more just about like the visuals of it. So, but I would recommend it for people who that appeals to. So Blood and Roses, 1960. What about you?
I watched Knife Plus Heart or Knife and Heart. Knife Plus Heart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how to say it but that was one that I had missed at Fantastic Fest, and I think it was 2018, 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to see it there, but something was matched up against it, and I watched that. But I absolutely loved this. It's on Shudder right now, directed by Jan Gonzalez. But it's basically like a giallo horror. It had a timeline of 1979, which I didn't think was necessary for the story. I know there's a lot of it involves a murderer who's killing, and it's like the giallo murder, like head to toe leather, black leather, black gloves, wears a mask.
Mm-hmm.
But this person is killing gay men who are in the porn industry. And basically you're just trying to figure out who the killer is, as well as one of the main directors. She's a lead character, but she's a director of adult films in this. And she's actually making a porno film about kind of the murders that are happening around her. And, somebody's killing off all her actors. It's just really intriguing, really cool giallo elements, great tension, awesome buildup. But like I said, the 1979 timeline felt a little unnecessary because the whole thing felt kind of timeless. Like,
okay.
The film equipment made sense in the 70s because, it was all the film that was being used. But still, even if it took place in, 2018 or whenever, it would have worked. So almost that 1979 timeline took me out just a little, but this was one of my favorite of the months by far. I loved it.
Nice.
Knife Plus Heart. Good stuff.
Yeah, I watched it a couple years ago when it first came on Shudder. I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I didn't even know what to. I walked into that movie blind, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
that's a good one.
It's French too. It's subtitled too for anybody who wants to check it out.
Yes,
just to throw that out there in case subtitles, for some stupid reason, turn you off.
Who are these people?
I don't know.
Fucking ghetto.
They're out there, I feel like.
They are. Like, subtitles in black and white. Shut up and fuck you. All right. Peter Cushing. What did you watch?
Woo. Love Peter Cushing. I could watch him. I could do a whole month of just Peter Cushing.
Yes.
But my pick was And Now the Screaming Starts, directed by Roy Ward Baker, 1973. Loved it. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I mean, it's Peter Cushing. One thing that I did find, so it was filmed at Oakley Court, which is this great Victorian Gothic house where William Castle's The Old Dark House was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was watching it, it looked like the Rocky Horror House. And I never knew this, but I had to look it up. But Rocky Horror Picture Show was also filmed there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like the scenes where there's this one scene where one of the main characters, she's looking at this. It's on the second floor, and she's looking at this painting of this man who has no eyes, kind of like reaching out for her. But that's like that chase scene. There's a chase scene in Rocky Horror Picture Show where it's that exact layout. And I was all, yeah, I love Rocky Horror Picture Show, everybody.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a character named Silas the Woodsman who gave me some serious riffraff vibes because he kept calling this guy master, and he had like this contemptuous humor. It felt like Rocky Horror. But it's very slow, but entertaining. And it has a crazy ending. I had to throw like an extra half star on my rating because the ending was like, fuck yeah. So definitely watch it for the ending. It's worth it.
Nice. So I ended up with a total of Well, I mean, there's probably more like sprinkled throughout other categories, but I've got 5 that I watched for Peter Cushing.
Yeah.
Most of them, rewatches. Curse of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. Actually, no. Most of these are first-time watches, or 3 of them are first-time watches. Madhouse, the other one, 1974, not the Madhouse that you and I first talked about on the other podcast, and Captain Clegg. And my actual pick, though, for Peter Cushing was Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell.
If I succeeded this time, then every sacrifice will have been worthwhile.
There's a monster attack!
Terrence Fisher, 1974. Okay, yeah. This was the first time watch for me, and it's one of those movies that I'm mad at myself. It took me so long to finally get around to watching. It's not a traditional Frankenstein's monster, but it is just fantastic. It's this contrast of the older Dr. Frankenstein with this newer doctor who idolizes him, and it's got a downbeat ending, which I love. And I picked up the Blu-ray this year, and it's been on my shelf waiting for October, and it was a definite treat. This is one of my favorites of the month for sure.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's the one where they go to like an insane asylum, right? There's a bunch of crazy inmates. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Hammer Frankenstein is one of my favorite horror series. I love it more than the Universal. I mean, I like it more than the Christopher Lee Dracula Hammers. All of them work so well.
I agree. Yeah. I think the more of the Frankenstein ones I watch, the more I'm like, yeah, these are actually better than, because there's some bangers in the Hammer Dracula, but as a whole, the Frankenstein are definitely superior. Okay. And then sequel category, I dumbed it way, way down, and I picked Wishmaster 2. because I have the Blu-ray set of 4 Wishmaster movies that I got on Amazon for, I don't know, $15 at some point, and it's been sitting on my shelf, and I've never watched it until now. Okay, so here's why I went in optimistic, because the guy who directed it also directed Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which is the darkest of all the nightmares, The Hidden, which I love.
Oh, yes. I love The Hidden.
And Alone in the Dark, like a pretty decent slasher movie. So I was like, okay, maybe this won't be terrible. It fucking is. It's terrible. No one should watch it. It would have been great so it still has the same guy who played Wishmaster in the first one. And I can't believe I'm still talking about Wishmaster 2, but here we go.
Did you like the first one?
I do. I like it. It's fun. It's dumb fun.
Yeah.
It's nothing I would like go out of my way to recommend to anyone. I'm like, but if you want something dumb to watch that is going to still be mildly entertaining, watch Wishmaster.
Or Hubie Halloween.
No.
Just kidding.
But this one starts with the Andrew Divoff, the guy who plays Wishmaster, or the Djinn. He is in prison, and he's basically like granting wishes and collecting souls. It would have been neat if he was just in there, but they've got this really bad subplot with this like Hot Topic girl and a priest that she used to fuck, and it's dumb. But it gets worse because I've got a list of 5 other movies that were sequels that I watched this month. And Wishmaster 3 is one of them. And
you just kept going.
I did. And we were going to do Wishmaster 4, but John was like, I can't do it. And so he was like, I don't want to waste another October movie on fucking Wishmaster. So I was like, that's fair. We'll save Wishmaster 4 for November. So we are in the middle of Wishmaster 4 right now. We have not finished it yet. So,
oh shit.
Yeah. I'll report back because I know everyone cares.
Let's see how many views we have on Letterboxd. Maybe I can do an episode.
But other sequels I watched that were great and are all rewatches for me were Prom Night 2, which is far superior to original Prom Night, and I will fight anyone who says differently. Halloween Prom Night 2 is way better than the original.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
You're right. You're right. You're okay.
I know. Okay. Halloween 3, Exorcist 3, and Dr. Phibes Rises Again were all my sequels.
Nice.
And Wishmaster 3.
And half of Wishmaster 4?
Half of Wishmaster 4, yeah.
Okay, well, my sequel is probably just as good as Wishmaster 2, Poltergeist 2. The Other Side. Yeah, it's director Brian Gibson. It's bad. It is really, really bad. If there was ever a sequel that should have never been made, this would be it. This would be just the close contender of like a prime example, because it tries its damnedest to be fun, though, and there's some really good special effects, but those are few and far between. I mean, there's like 2 really cool scenes, like the braces scene, the kid braces scene, and then Coach vomiting up the worm.
Right.
That's really about it. I had never seen it before. I'd been sitting on this one since 1986. And I wouldn't recommend it. There's a lot of people that seem to really like this movie, but I'm not one of them.
Who the fuck are these people? What is wrong with you? If you like Poltergeist 2, please explain yourself. If I had to pick
a movie by the director, Brian Gibson, I would go with What's Love Got to Do with It. That's more solid.
Yeah.
And that was the only sequel I watched.
Okay. What about Japan?
Japan, I did Onibaba. Is that
nice. Yeah.
Hag, or I don't know what I think it says Hag on the subtitle, but just a beautiful horror, super dreamy. I kept thinking that I was kind of waiting for it to get scary, get those real horror vibes, and it does at the end. But I kept thinking, if this was in color, would this still be considered like a really strong horror? Maybe, but beautiful stuff. I mean, I definitely recommend it. It's just, 1964. It's been in my watch list for way too long.
Yeah. Nice. This was not my pick for Japan, but was one of the other movies that I did watch for this category. So I watched it this month as well. First time watch for me as well. Nice. And the reason I watched it is because one of the director's other movies was my pick for Free Space, which I'll get into when we get to that. That's our last category. But my pick for Japan was a movie called Blind Beast from 1969. And it's about a mother and son who kidnap a model. The son is blind and he wants to use her body. He's a really talented sculptor, and he wants to make a sculpture of her. He thinks she has like the perfect body for sculpting. It's directed by Yasuzu Masumura, who also did one of the Hanzo movies, if anybody has seen those. It's about a Japanese sheriff who power fucks people to get confessions out of them, and it's fantastic. Hard recommend on the Hanzo series. But this one, Blind Beast, I'm going to say this off the bat, this is probably one of my favorite new to me movies this year.
Oh, wow.
It's really hard to categorize, though. It definitely has like body horror elements, but it's also kind of a sex thriller, a fantasy movie. It's surrealistic. It could almost be considered a pink film, a Japanese porn, because it's really hard to classify, because eventually the woman who is kidnapped does develop this sort of Stockholm syndrome, but in a really weird way, and it just escalates from there. And it's a real treat if you're into the weird foreign. I should classify. I should say, you would really like this. So, yeah, Blind Beast, 1969. Hard recommend on that one for me.
Where'd you watch it?
I had to download it.
Okay.
If anyone is interested in it, though, I can email you the movie. So, just saying. You didn't get it from me, though. So yeah, Blind Beast for Japan. The next category we've got is Blood in the Title. My pick was Bloody Pit of Horror from 1965.
Never before so much paralyzing terror
as in this hair-raising orgy of sadism, influenced by the shocking writings of the evil, depraved Marquis de Sade. Bloody Pit of Horror.
It's very cheesy. It's great when it's being a horror movie, but it's tedious when it's not. It's about a group of models and a photographer who come to this castle that do a photo shoot, and they accidentally awaken the Crimson Executioner. And the Crimson Executioner looks like a wrestler. Like, he's got tight red pants on, a big gold chain, and a red mask, or like a red hood and like a black mask on. I'm sorry, the Crimson Executioner is my new kink. I tried telling this to John, and he's apparently not listening, because I have not seen the Crimson Executioner show up in my bedroom yet. So it's amazing, and it's a lot of fun, but you just know that it is, when it's not being a horror movie, it can get pretty tedious, but I had a lot of fun with it. And that one, I had a DVD of it, but it was actually such a bad copy on the DVD. I ended up watching it on YouTube, and it was a much better copy. So,
Oh, nice.
and I watched a couple of other movies with blood in the title, Blood Feast and Theater of Blood, which Theater of Blood's actually my favorite Vincent Price performance.
I watched it for the first time, like, I don't know if it was last year, a couple of years ago. And yeah, it blew me away. He's so good in that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just my, like, the English geek in me, like, coming out. And like, and especially because one of the kills is Titus Andronicus. And I'm just like, fuck yeah. Cause that's my favorite Shakespeare one, because it's so not Shakespeare. Kill the kids, serve them in the pie. Anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely yours. That's right. That's your cup of tea.
It is. Good stuff. What about you? Blood in the title.
My pick was Blood Diner. All my blood picks kind of are tied together. But Blood Diner is my favorite probably of all these picks. If you've watched Blood Feast, it, steals a lot of the same elements. It's about these two goofy brothers, whose uncle's killed in the very opening sequence of the movie. And so the two brothers, I guess it's like 20 years later, they go to the cemetery and dig up their murdered uncle, who was killed by the police because he was chopping up people for body parts, because he was trying to summon this Shitar. And they save his brain, and it has his eyeballs attached to it. So basically, it's definitely a horror comedy, but he's kind of directing them to get body parts to kill people, and to, for this ritual. But this thing is just so full of good one-liners. There's this one quote, "I'm so horny I could fuck a cow." And a vegetarian says this in the movie, by the way. But it really never lets up. It's just like burps, vomit. There's wrestling in it, gore, just really good stuff.
Ventriloquism, too.
Ventriloquism. Insane police chiefs,
Yes.
which seem to pop up in all these blood movies I watched. Blood-Sucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh, I watched that twice. We'll talk about that
next week.
And then I watched the 1963 original Blood Feast. And I watched the 2018 remake of Blood Feast, which I didn't know was out there. Horrible stuff. I did watch it all, but it's bad. It felt like a late night Skinamax movie. So if that's your bag, baby, let's give it a roll. I think it was on Prime.
Hard pass.
Yeah, for sure. But those are all my blood movies.
What about Back to School?
Back to school. It's an Adam Sandler callback.
Damn it.
The Black Coat's Daughter. This was directed. It's an actor, Oz Perkins, who's in Star Trek, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. He was in Legally Blonde. I think he played the young Norman Bates in Psycho 2. But this was his first feature. And he since did Gretel and Hansel, which came out this year, which I haven't seen. But
I haven't seen it either.
This was really good. It starred a lot of female actresses, but the main was Kiernan Shipka, who played Sally Draper from Mad Men, which I love Mad Men. But this one was about, so the back to school element is it's like a winter break. Everybody's going away except Kiernan's character. Her parents, she has this vision that her parents were killed in a car wreck. and they don't show up to pick her up. And then another girl is staying for the winter too because she's pregnant. She thinks she's pregnant. She doesn't want to tell her folks, and she's trying to hash things out with her boyfriend. So they kind of stay in the school together. But Kiernan's character is possessed. It's basically like an exorcist type situation where she gets really, vomiting and violent and stuff. But I recommend it. I'm anxious to see Gretel and Hansel. I've seen bad things, but Oz Perkins kind of impressed me with his first feature with this, but it's super creepy.
Okay. What year is it again?
2015.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like I said, I kind of spaced out a lot of 70s and, I wanted some new horror. This was the best of the new horror I watched by far.
Okay.
But it's on Netflix. I think that's where I watched it.
Okay.
If you have Netflix.
I don't. I've cut back everything. All right. So Back to School for me was Hellmaster from 1992.
It's the John Saxon one.
Yeah. That's why I watched it. All right. This is also known as Carnage on Campus, also known as Them. And this movie is fucking awful. So Vinegar Syndrome has a release of this. And I think the cut that I watched might have been different than the one that Vinegar put out.
It's on Shudder, right?
No, I watched this on Prime.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if it's on Shudder because I don't have that either. But yeah, this is terrible. John Saxon is in it. I love John Saxon, but he is bored as fuck in this movie. But he does say, call me Papa at one point, and I creamed my pants. So, but...
October made.
Yeah. But the movie is terrible. It's got... Okay, so here's the thing. It's got terrible lighting, terrible dialogue, no setups. Like everything just like there's no reason that anyone goes anywhere or does anything. Nothing makes sense. It is absolute and sheer confusion. But that being said, you'll never be bored watching this movie because you'll just be confused the whole time. So maybe this would play well with a crowd of drunk people. But for me, watching it by myself, sober at home, no. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those movies where I can see why Vinegar Syndrome put it out, but I don't ever fucking want to watch this movie again.
Okay, that was, I think I had it on a list of potential unsung horrors picks.
That's coming off.
No, I don't even know if I added it.
Okay.
It was just a few that I had added, and I think it has since been added to Shudder. So I'm sure it's kind of like I could imagine that it's probably fast approaching 1,000.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna.
So don't recommend. I'm not even gonna watch it.
It's bad. It's really bad. Okay, so that's the first half of our picks. We're going to pause there to just do a quick shout out to everyone who donated for our Horror Gives Back challenge. I don't have, there's a couple of people who I knew who did this, and I haven't heard back from them yet about what they donated. But so far, including our donations, Horror gave back over $600 to charity just for watching horror movies this month. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So included in that, Cody, who I mentioned before, donated to AGFA. Erica from the Les Represent podcast donated to the Resource Center, which helps those in the LGBTQ community affected by HIV. Robert and Chris from the Film Flamers podcast donated to the Trevor Project, which focuses on suicide prevention in the LGBTQ community. My friend Mike Lawson, he didn't even know that Horror Gives Back was going on until November, which was fine because he jumped in on it anyway. And he donated to Equality Texas. It's an advocacy group for the LGBT community, including things like same-sex marriage. Amber Hoffman over on Twitter, she watched more movies than you, Lance. She watched 77 movies in October.
She's impressive. What can I say?
Yeah. But she also had a friend who matched her donation, and she made her donation to Austin Zoo. And then James from Night Shift Video donated to Scares That Care. And that's a charity focusing on fighting the real monsters of childhood illness, burns and breast cancer. And it helps families who are basically experiencing those hardships and provides them with financial assistance. So out of those people, plus all the people who were kind enough to share the story, retweets, all that stuff, entries. Remember, if you shared the story, reposted, that's one entry. If you retweeted, that was one entry. If you tagged people, that was one entry. And any donation, $1 equals one entry. So we're going to have 3 winners here. And I used an app called Raffle Name, entered everybody's name with all the entries that everybody got. And our 3 winners for this are, all right, Amber Hoffman. Makes sense because she had the most entries out of everybody, is our first winner. The one with Cody's artwork and some books and stuff, that goes to Erica from the Les Represent podcast. Let's see, the one with the action figure set, the action figure set goes to Wicked Mama on Twitter. If any of you are listening, DM us your address. We will mail out your prize packages to you promptly. Otherwise, I'll ping you if we don't hear back from you in a few days. But congratulations again to Amber, Erica, and Wicked Mama.
Congratulations, everybody. Thanks for participating.
Yeah, awesome. $600, that's huge, like just for watching horror movies. So we're going to do it again next year. So be sure to tell your friends about it when that comes around next year. And so from here, we are going to go through the second half of our picks in part 2 of our Horror Gives Back bonus episode. So be sure to tune in, or just let your player keep playing on to part 2 for Horror Gives Back. You'll hear the rest of our picks for the challenge, as well as our top and bottom few movies for this. So please tune in for that second part.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.